All right, let's dive into a massive weather update today because we've got some huge changes on the horizon. A major weather pattern shift is about to unfold this weekend, bringing brutally cold conditions to a significant portion of the United States. We're not just talking about a typical winter chill. This could shape up to be one of the coldest Januaries we've experienced in decades. On top of that, we're monitoring the possibility of at least one, maybe even a couple of winter storms over the next week or so. Today, I'm going to break it all down. What's happening now, what's coming up, and how it might impact you and your area. Let's get into it. First, let's take a look at what's happening across the country this morning. Right now, for many of us, things are looking pretty good. Most of the lower 48 is basking in sunshine, but there are a few spots worth mentioning. Over in the Midwest, there's a bit of cloud cover moving in, and the Northeast is seeing a few light snow showers. Down in Texas, a small area of moisture is streaming in from the Pacific Ocean, which will bring some scattered showers and possibly even thunderstorms to parts of the Gulf Coast over the next few days. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Now, let's turn to the West Coast, where we've got a different story unfolding. The Los Angeles area is dealing with several active wildfires right now, and unfortunately, conditions are prime for rapid fire spread. Strong winds and very low humidity are making this a dangerous situation. These conditions are expected to last for about 48 hours, but by the tail end of the week, probably around Thursday or Friday, we should see those winds calm down, reducing the wildfire threat. However, with the fires currently burning, it's still a very concerning situation. For the rest of the country, things are relatively quiet for now, but that calm won't last. Over the next couple of weeks, we're gearing up for a dramatic weather shift as Arctic air begins spilling down from Canada. This is going to be one of the most significant cold outbreaks we've seen in a long time. And it could affect almost every part of the country in some way. So let's talk about what's setting the stage for this massive shift. Right now, the jet stream is relatively calm east of the Rockies with a zonal flow that's keeping things quiet for the moment. But by this weekend, that's going to change in a big way. In the Pacific Northwest, we're already seeing winds wrapping around a low pressure system offshore, which is contributing to the fire risk in California. As this system moves, it's going to bring a significant dip in the jet stream, allowing cold Arctic air to flood southward. By Saturday morning, the polar jet stream will dip sharply into the Pacific Northwest and northern plains. This shift will bring a few key weather events. First, we're looking at the development of a winter storm in the central U.S., which could bring a mix of snow, rain, and possibly even some ice to the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and Northeast. Second, and more importantly, we'll see a massive Arctic blast that's going to bring temperatures plummeting across the northern plains, Midwest, and even down into the deep south. How cold are we talking about? Early next week, sub-zero temperatures will dominate the northern plains with wind chills as low as 40 def in some areas. Even places as far south as Texas and northern Florida could see freezing temperatures. The Gulf Coast isn't off the hook either. There's a small chance for a winter weather event there as well, though details are still uncertain. Yeah, let's break this down day by day. Over the next couple days, we'll see a small cold front sweep through the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and Northeast. This will bring a brief cool down and some scattered snow showers, but it's nothing too extreme. However, as we head into the weekend, that's when the real action begins. The Arctic air will start to pour in on Saturday, with the coldest temperatures arriving Sunday through Tuesday. At its peak, we could see temperatures as low as 25 def in places like Minnesota and North Dakota, with wind chills making it feel even colder. By Tuesday morning, it's likely to be the coldest day of this Arctic outbreak, with sub-zero temperatures extending far south into the central plains and even parts of the deep south. Meanwhile, the West Coast will see the opposite trend, with warm, dry conditions continuing. This could extend the wildfire threat in California, especially as dry air remains in place. By midweek, the pattern will start to shift again. The Arctic air will begin retreating, and temperatures across much of the country will rebound to near or slightly below average. The good news, this Arctic blast won't last weeks. It's more like a 3-4 day event. So while it will be intense, it will be relatively short-lived. Now, let's touch on those potential winter storms. One system is set to develop on Friday, bringing snow to the Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, and Northeast. There's also a chance of severe weather in parts of the deep south, particularly Mississippi and Alabama. As we move into early next week, there's another possibility for winter storm near the Gulf Coast or East Coast. Right now, the exact track and impact of this system are uncertain, but it's something we're watching closely. If the temperatures are as cold as forecasted, we could see snow in areas that don't typically get much winter weather. This next weather system is dropping in from the Pacific Northwest, creating a big trough, and that's going to set the stage for Santa Ana winds, a classic recipe for extreme fire conditions in Southern California. Over the next couple of days, areas like Los Angeles, Long Beach, Riverside, and down to San Diego are in the danger zone. To set up, winds will guess from 50 to 70 miles per hour, blowing from the northeast down to the southwest. Humidity levels around 10, which is bone dry, Ventura Valley, San Bernardino Mountains. These areas are especially vulnerable. This isn't just a one-day thing. Either day one, it's extremely critical fire outlook. Day two, the area gets bigger. By day three on Wednesday, we're still in critical conditions. Some of the fires from last week are more under control, but if a new fire starts today or tomorrow, conditions are perfect for rapid spread. If you're in these areas or you know someone who is, make sure evacuation plans are ready. Stay alert. PDs, a particularly dangerous situation. Red flag warning is in effect, which is as serious as it gets. All right. Shifting gears to the rest of the country now. This fire situation is localized, but we've got a massive troughing pattern setting up across the U.S., and it's about to bring some of the coldest air we've seen in years. Let's talk about the big picture. A brief warm-up is coming for parts of the central U.S. and the Pacific Northwest. Some areas might even see temps 20 to 30 degrees above average by Friday, but don't get too comfortable. It's not lasting long. By the 19th or 20th, Arctic air is set to dive in, plunging most of the country into below average temperatures. And it's not just a quick cold snap. This is going to linger. Looking at the models, the Southeast especially is going to feel the brunt of this. By January 24th, and even into the 29th, below average temperatures dominate. Who escapes this? Maine, Southern Florida, Alaska, and Hawaii. Everyone else bundle up. Okay, I know Arctic blast headlines can sound intense, but don't panic. This isn't the end of the world. It's just unusually cold. Plan ahead, especially in places like Texas, where the power grid could face some strain. Expect isolated outages, but nothing like the major events we've seen in past years. With this cold pattern, you know what that means. Snowstorms, this setup is perfect for storm tracks along the southern U.S. and up the east. The Climate Prediction Center is already highlighting a 2040 chance of heavy snow between January 18th and 24th for much of the central and eastern U.S. It's like Frausen, you're going to see wild snowstorm predictions on social media. Blizzard of 1977 repeat, or Superstorm of 93 is back. Don't fall for it. Most of those forecasts are just models throwing out possibilities that won't materialize until we're about 4 or 5 days out. Take those with a grain of salt. With that said, I do think we'll see a big storm before the month is over. Some areas in the southern plains have already had more snow than parts of the Midwest. Oklahoma and Arkansas, I'm looking at you. Meanwhile, places like Iowa and Wisconsin are in a snow drought. This pattern might not bring much relief there, but February and March could shift the focus. When we look at precipitation trends, there's a chance of storms moving up the East Coast with an outlook for above average precipitation during this time. The Climate Prediction Center is indicating that cold air will likely be in place, which means a coastal storm could form. Though the chances of this happening aren't extremely high, we could still see a 33 to 40 chance of above average precipitation, which is typical when we're 7 to 10 days out from an event. The West is expected to stay dry for now, which should remain the case for the foreseeable future. Looking at the 8 to 14 day outlook, the East is expected to stay cold, but if the cold air extends too far east, it could reduce snow chances along the coast. For the period between January 21st and 27th, we could see clipper systems bringing light to moderate snow to the Midwest, Great Lakes, and Northeast, but significant snowstorms from coastal lows might not be as likely. Over the past 2 weeks, the central U.S. Ohio Valley and mid-Atlantic have experienced particularly cold temperatures. Areas further north, such as the Great Lakes and Northeast, have seen temperatures closer to average. And the Southeast has also been on the colder side, although not as chilly as the northern regions. On the other hand, The West has been experiencing warmer than usual temperatures, contributing to a positive Pacific North American pattern, which is helping bring cold air into the eastern U.S. The European model is still showing the possibility of a southeast snowstorm between January 20th and 22nd. While there's some disagreement among the models, there are still signals that this storm might occur. Both the GFS and European models suggest cold air and snow, though the specifics differ. Some models show snow showers in Virginia with some activity moving into the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley by midweek. Thursday, January 16th, might bring snow showers to the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, but there's no major storm yet. By Friday, January 17th, temperatures will briefly warm up as cold air moves from the west to the east, bringing snow to the northern Rockies and northern plains. The primary driver of the cold air right now is a low-pressure system between Hudson Bay and the Great Lakes. This system has been responsible for many of the cold weather pushes this season and will continue to play a significant role. As the low-pressure system moves eastward, it will bring heavy snow to the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast. Thunderstorms are expected in the southeast, and showers will move through the Gulf states. This system will gradually push east, and a coastal low might form along the Mid-Atlantic, potentially bringing snow to these areas as the cold sets in. By Sunday, January 19th, the storm is expected to move up the coast, bringing snow and cold air with it. This may be our first significant snowstorm for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, with the cold air interacting with the storm on Monday, January 20th, and Tuesday, January 21st. The storm will intensify, bringing a mix of snow, ice, and rain to the southeast, and heavy snow to parts of North Carolina, Virginia, and southern New England. It's a tricky setup, and there are still many variables to consider, but the storm signals are there, and we'll be closely monitoring the situation. Even though we're seeing some storm signals now, it's important to remember that this doesn't guarantee a storm will happen. We've seen similar setups before, where the storm disappeared after a few days, but the potential is there. The patterns are starting to align, and in a few days, we'll have a clearer picture. Whether we end up with a major snowstorm or just a few light snowflakes, we'll continue to track the situation. Stay tuned for more updates as the forecast is likely to change, but the signals are pointing towards something big. As we move into next week, the storm signal will become clearer, and we'll have a better idea of where the storm will track.